Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Bill Selak Talks. My name is Bill Selak. This is me talking. So here we are continuing with our Rise and Decline retrospective, looking at our second album, Camden Road. And we're going to dig into track number 6, Happy Face. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, connect it with some education, with some technology, reflect on what it means to be kind of a leader in the education space these days, and kind of what it's like to be a human these days, right? So this song, 6th track, is kind of a happier song. It's in the key of F major, for those of you playing along at home. And before we jump into kind of the lyrics and the bigger theme of this, I want to get a little bit geeky here with the music and the bass playing of it. So, quick primer on bass guitar. For those that know, you'll be like, yeah, I know all this, and good for you for knowing notes of a bass. So the 4 strings on a standard bass are, starting lowest to highest, both in pitch and how you look at it, are E, A, D, and G. And that E is not the same as an F. And so what I would sometimes do when we were playing live is I'd mute my bass, bring up the tuner on my pedal board, and change that low E up a half step to an F. So then I didn't have to use my left hand. I could use my right hand and play an F, which is not a normal thing you would do. What I liked to do with that is a couple things. I'm giggling because suddenly my left hand was available and I could play if the note's just F, F, F. Instead of having to have my finger on that first fret to play and use both hands, my left hand was available. So I would often sneak up around or behind Brent, our singer, and like tap his shoulder, sometimes like give him a wedgie in the middle of him singing, because he was using both hands to play and then he had to stand still because there was a microphone pointed at his face. So he couldn't move and he couldn't touch me. He could kind of kick at me, but like if you're singing and playing guitar, you pretty much need both your feet to hold you in place. So I would just, like, it was first of all, a fun way just to kind of mess with Brent. And I think the more fun that you have on stage playing, the more fun the audience has. So I just, like, out of nowhere remembered that bit. But the other interesting thing is that I could play that F as an open string and then bring my left hand that normally would be pushing on the strings on the A string. And for those, again, playing along at home that know guitar or bass, I could slide up to the 8th fret, play an F, and then go back and forth and have that octave between like the low F and then an octave up for the higher F, and could do kind of more interesting bass lines that you typically can't do on a bass when the song is in the key of F. It's not super user-friendly because none of the open strings really fit that key. In the recording, I did not do that, because I was just sitting there playing and hadn't kind of played the song enough to be like, actually having this as an open 6 string is interesting. So it's like a super abnormal thing that's fun. So this is a bit more of like Song Exploder, like hearing the stories behind the song. But that's likely not why you're here, or when you're here, or who you're here. But the more interesting thing I think about the song is lyrically. And it wasn't actually till I was able to remix these songs in Logic that I could kind of solo out the lyrics and really pay attention to them. Certainly in the band, and even now, like, I focus so much on the guitar, the bass, all the instruments, so much less about the lyrics, to the point where now, like, most songs we listen to in the car with my kids, they're like, what is this song even about? I'm like, I don't know. I like the mix. They did a good job. Like, I like where the vocals sit compared to the guitar. Like, I like the sound of the kick drum. I like the style of the song. Like, I don't know what they're saying. Like, back in my day, and if you're listening to this, you're probably from my day, the 90s and earlier. Back in my day, like, we didn't have lyrics. You would just guess, and for years you'd be wrong. And it's not until now you're like, what? That's what they're saying? That's what this song is about? What? For fun, by the way, if you've not listened to Operation Ivy in quite some time, listen to that, and then you have the lyrics, and suddenly you can understand Tim Armstrong, that folks kind of collectively in the punk rock world to call him Marble Mouth for good reason. But anyway, the song Happy Face is about like putting on a happy face around other people because there's such a social expectation. I would say in America, certainly in California, that like you need to be happy, things are great. Both just kind of with friends, but certainly through my educational career, like professionally, just to kind of always be on, always be happy. A couple of the lyrics that kind of hit that home is talking about the fresh new coat of paint disguises every lie about the way I feel. You know, like no matter what, I'm doing great, things are happy. And to some extent, I think we need to do this around students and colleagues. Like we can't just go around being like sad or mad or frustrated all the time. Like that's not a professional thing. But I think that there's a middle ground. I think for the longest time I was like, well, yeah, like I need folks to see me as happy, as fun, and for me personally is like and funny. Like I need to be like, Bill's a great guy. He's a hoot to be around. He sure tells funny dad jokes. Like for a long time, that was my identity, is like I'm the fun, happy person. And so for that reason, like I have looked at these lyrics, and over the last 20 years, I've changed so much about that there's for sure a time and a place where we need to be professional and like not kind of distracted by or sidelined by kind of emotions, right? If you're a second grade teacher, you need to be on for them. But I think that there's also, particularly with colleagues, a space where you can be more authentic and more honest. And for me, our school, this goes back to the fall of 2020 when our school was open for in-person learning, when so many schools were still in remote learning. And it was really scary being on campus. This was like, I think this was even pre-vaccine. So it was like, we don't even know how to like solve this new virus thing. And people were really like, it was a hard time to be working in a school. And there kind of came a point where it's like, you know what, like showing up as a leader in this space, I don't need to be the happy, fun, silly guy. You know, the whole idea of like always putting on a happy face, always having like a fresh coat of paint on me so that you only see like the happy and the positive. There were times when I was just like, how you doing? I was like, this is really hard. I don't want to be here right now. And a lot of colleagues were like, yeah, same. Like this is a really scary time to be an educator and teaching in person. And I realized really the power of being honest. Again, like all the caveats, right place, right time, but just like knowing when it's okay to be authentically you. And I think that this idea can be grown and kind of, we can branch off in a few different directions of it, but I think there's a real power to like being authentically you and showing up authentically you as an educator. And so if we zoom out just a little bit and go away from being a little bit heavier here, I think the idea that like bringing your full self to your job as an educator is incredibly powerful. Again, there's times and places, right? Like if you're having a meeting and you need to talk with, you know, if you're a supervisor or an administrator and you need to talk with somebody about their performance or about like not renewing a contract, like there's that's the time to just, you know, kind of be strictly professional. And you know this, right? But, you know, you're not going to be like, hey, silly time, or like, hey, I just had a really tough meeting with a parent. You're just going to like kind of put on that happy face, that serious face, that professional face, and like kind of do your job and get through that moment. But I think there are more times than we're willing to acknowledge that we can just be authentically ourselves and be like, you know, sitting down at lunch with a colleague and they're like, how you doing? And you're like, actually, it's a tough day. This or that is happening. Instead of just, I'm doing great. How are you? And I think particularly in school leadership, there is a trap of like always being on, always being happy, always putting on that happy face, always putting on that coat of paint so that people see you as like helping morale. And I think what I learned, particularly in the fall of 2020, is that helping morale is sometimes just like sitting with someone and being like, this is really hard. Like life is really hard right now. And like being mindful of relationships and kind of supervisory roles and all of that stuff. But just being like, this is hard. And I think particularly now, as I'm recording this in the spring of 2025, life continues to be really hard, particularly if you live in America right now. And so I think finding, again, appropriate times and places to kind of acknowledge how that's hard for different people in different ways, and to be honest with how you're doing in certain ways, I think is an important thing. And it's the kind of thing that we often default to not doing. And so, this song was kind of a silly, and I think intentionally, it was really like lots of major chords, lots of really kind of happy, kind of cheerful thing. The ending of it's like a catchier pop punk kind of thing that you're going to hear in the next episode of this podcast. And I think kind of built into that, there's this real tension of like, I need to be fake for people to like me. I need to be happy for people to like me. And that's not healthy. But I think we can even go one step deeper as we kind of wrap up this idea around this track, is that it's not just, I need to be happy as an educator. It can also be like, I am at my best as an educator when I show up fully as myself. And so I think what that means is like leaning into your strengths, your passions, your quirks, like all of you showing up more authentically. And what that allows you to do is be more authentically yourself, which leads to like you being better at all the things that you are doing. And part of that is, I think just owning that and trusting that is how you can best show up for work. So as an example for me, I talked about this a few years ago when I was doing leadership coaching. We had these kind of buckets of kind of personality, and one of them that continues to really resonate with me, we called that bucket the touch the microphone bucket. So very quick story, because it's been a couple of years and you've probably forgotten or not listened to that episode. This idea of the personality bucket was, I was presenting at a conference, and it was a Pecha Kucha, or like an Ignite session, one of those timed sessions where your slides auto advance and you don't control the slides at all, and your microphone shuts off at whatever minute mark they've decided. And I've done this a number of times. I love this protocol for presenting. But at this one spot, they were like, you're not allowed to touch the microphone. We have so many people who just need to like go. You're going to walk up. There's like not a podium. It was just like a straight mic stand. The mic was there. And I really struggled with actually like giving a good talk because it was so distracting to not hold the microphone. It was a straight stand, so I had to like get close to it. But then if I was too far, then I'm going to actually get far away from this mic. Then suddenly it's like quiet and you couldn't hear. And then I got closer, but then I had to like step on either side of the mic, and I'm like standing weird. And it was not a good talk. And I just remember a few people that I worked with were kind of looking at me, and they're like, okay, fine, great talk. But like, it wasn't like that, like, dude, you're killing it, that I'm used to when I'm presenting at a conference. And so like that really stuck with me for a long time. And then the following year, same conference, the NAIS, National Association of Independent Schools Conference, same thing, Pecha Kucha, same rules, you can't touch the mic. And this year, I was like, just so you know, I'm going to be touching this microphone. I'm going to grab the mic and hold it in my hand. If you need me to stand in one spot, I can do that, but I'm going to be holding the microphone. And so that one experience a year apart, and by the way, that talk went super well, like knocked it out of the park, super engaging. People are like, yeah, rock and roll, or at least they weren't just like kind of neutral faces. People seemed into it. That whole idea of like speaking up and being who I am and advocating for the thing I need to do, or like noticing the thing, to not just be like, yeah, it's cool, whatever, I'll let it go, but to be like, you know what, this thing is important. I'm going to speak up when this thing is important. In a lot of ways, that shows up like in the deja work or DEI work of like, you know, nobody's really mentioning a thing, but like, I'm going to speak up, and it doesn't matter if if there's in a space for it or not. Like, we need to talk about this thing, or I want it at least noted that like, by making this choice as a school, we are including this group and excluding that group, or we're advocating for this group in the absence of that group. And it could be as simple as like, we're going to only do this event in person and we're not going to live stream it. It could be we're going to not record it. You have to be in person, or like, we're going to record it and share it later. And so depending on that choice, it's going to be more or less inclusive as a school community. And there's lots of good reasons why you would choose one or the other. But I think I have learned over time, like, there are times when I do need to, as I call it, kind of touch the microphone and like speak up and be like, actually, if we choose this, we're excluding families that can't show up in person. So if that's what we need, because it's like an interactive hands-on thing that doesn't make sense to watch remotely, fine. If we want to reorganize and rethink this so that it includes people remotely, fine. But like, let's just name that this is our choice and these are the consequences regarding inclusivity. And so being able to think through that and choose that and like lead and step into a space in that way, for me, really hits the theme of this song, where, you know, Brent wrote these lyrics in 2002, and I continue to learn from them about like how I show up to work, how I show up as a leader in this space, and then really being intentional with when I'm going to just kind of put on a happy face, when I need to just be like, hey, everybody, we're doing a great thing. You know, like new employee orientation comes to mind, kind of regardless of how that morning or that week is working. I'm pretty much going to be like, so great to see everybody here. We're going to get your devices set up. We're going to get you logged in with your accounts. You're going to leave today with access to your Hillbrook Google account. You're going to have your MacBook Air password and ready to go. All right. That's not the time to be like, life is really hard right now, right? Like, obviously I'm not advocating for that, but being intentional about how I show up. And then if I'm going to just be like, things are fine, I'm kind of a generic employee doing the thing and always happy or whatever, or like, you know, am I going to touch the microphone and kind of interrupt behaviors and decisions or not? And so I think my challenge for you is being more intentional about how you're showing up as an educator, and really just in relationships in general. Like, are you, I mean, if you're one of my friends, you're likely very similar to me, where you want people to like you. And not just in a like, all humans like that, but like, it's important that folks like me. You know, like when you're showing up and being okay with other people doing their thing, like at the cost of you not being who you are as much. And then thinking more intentionally about how you show up as a leader in those spaces so that you can be like the youest you are. And for me, that's really my takeaway from this song, is like, how can I be a mere me? It feels very Dr. Seussian, but it's true. And I like that a lot. I like that this song continues to challenge me, and hopefully you'll listen to it and it will continue or begin to challenge you, because you probably haven't heard the song. So, as a reminder, the way all these episodes work is you just heard me talk about the song for about 20 minutes. And then as a standalone episode, you're going to hear the song Happy Face in its entirety, written and recorded by my old punk rock band Rising Decline in 2002 from our second and unreleased album that I don't know that we ever titled. I'm calling it Camden Road because that was the first track. And the first track was really, really good. I really like that song. So you're going to hear this podcast. You just heard this podcast. And then you're going to hear the song in its entirety as the next track. And then we're track 6 right now. We have tracks, I think, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're done with this little project. So thanks for listening. My name is Bill Selak. This has been me talking.